have been about 12 years old back in the 70s, and I remember being on a bus. I was probably going to the mall or something like that to meet some friends. And I remember some woman was on the bus reading a book, and I caught the title of the book. And the book's title was, "What Other People Think of Me Is None of My Business." And I remember looking at that title and thinking to myself, that's about the scariest thing I can possibly think about. And how is that even possible? And why wouldn't you want to make sure that everybody's thinking good things about you? It's important to think that other people are thinking good thoughts about you. And it wasn't probably until 30 years later that I fully caught the full impact, the full import of that statement, that what other people think of me is none of my business. Now, I've never read that book, but the title says it all. The idea, first of all, that we could even know what other people really think of us is erroneous. There's no possible way. The only way you can know what somebody's thinking about you is if they tell you, and even then, it's just what they're telling you. A lot of times people don't even know what they think. They just think they know what they think. So you don't know what they think. They don't really know what they think. And what they think about you, there's nothing you can do with that data. Unfortunately, though, I would say the majority of our time is spent making sure people think of us in a certain way. And that's wasted effort because we can't ever know for sure if it's working. But we waste a lot of time, we waste a lot of effort making sure in our minds, manipulating people into having a specific idea of who we are. And even those of us who say, I don't care what people think of me, usually do spend a great deal of time making sure people think of us in a certain way. Very few of us wear our hairstyles because we like it that way. Or clothing because we like those clothes, drive a car because we like that car. We don't usually post on social media because we care what we post. We usually want to get other people to like us. We usually want people to like our posts or to respond in a particular way. And even if we get negative reinforcement, it's still, the idea is that there's other people out there that are going to support us, even though we get negative response from certain people. So it gets really insidious that, no, I don't care what people think of me. But in reality, what you're saying is I don't care what certain people think of me because these other people who are more important to me, they will think of me in a certain way, even though these people don't like me or don't think of me the way I want them to think of me. So regardless of whether you believe that you don't care what people think of you or not, you probably do. You probably spend a great deal of time trying to manage other people's image of you, other people's opinion of you. And the reason why this is so important to understand is that's a big, giant power suck. That if you want to know how to be more powerful in magic, the way to be more powerful in magic is to focus on yourself. The way to have success and to be happy and to contribute the most to the world is to focus on yourself. You put all the focus on yourself, not on other people. Now, I'm sure that when you were growing up, many of us were told to mind our own business. Well, most of us did not take that lesson to heart, because if everybody was minding their own business, the world would be extremely different. The world would be very different. But again, what does that usually do for us when we think, oh, okay, mind my own business, that's the way to do it? The first thing that we start usually doing is noticing how people aren't minding their own business. Because if we were minding our own business, it wouldn't concern us whether other people are minding their own business or not, because that's not our business, right? So if you were to mind your own business, what you would start to notice is that you become a lot more powerful, you have a lot less stress, you become happier, you become more peaceful, and you start to be able to listen to wisdom because you're crowding out all of those cacophonous thoughts that are constantly plaguing your mind, that are all about, you got to look good, you got to sound good, you got to be good, you got to make people like you. And if it's not, you got to make people like you, you got to make people have a specific image of you, right? And that, I would say, takes up about a good 90 to 99% of our time and our energy. And then we wonder why we don't have lives that work. And then when you get into things like magic and start to really want to get under the hood and start to change things on the level of cause, that's when you really can see a difference if you start minding your own business, putting yourself first. Now, a lot of people hear, well, you should put yourself first, and they think, wow, that's so selfish. Those people are not very selfless. And actually, it is not selfish in the traditional sense of the term. It's out of self-interest. It's out of self-interest. And everything we do must be out of self-interest, because our self is the only thing that we can know. Now, our self can be thought of with a small s or our self with a big S. Our self with a small s is the personality that we have kind of constructed. That's our based on our ego. This idea, this kind of a false sense of ourself that we kind of pasted up together. We put a personality together so that we can feel safe interacting with other people. And you hear a lot of people talking about, just be your authentic self, be authentic. Well, that's easy to say, but how do you be authentic when you've spent your entire life creating an inauthentic self and you don't even know that's what you've been doing? And then people say, well, just be yourself. Well, that'd be nice. Who is that? Well, the self with a small s will never be able to be itself, because it's not capable of knowing itself, because it doesn't exist. It's just a construct. But the self with a big S is something that you didn't create. That's something that was created for you. And the self with a big S doesn't need your help. It doesn't need you to create a personality for it. It already knows what it wants. It already knows what it's like. It already knows why it's here. It already knows what it wants to do. And it's an extension of pure love. It's an extension of infinite intelligence, and it is a unique, powerful soul that can overcome any obstacle, that can create any desire, that can do whatever it wants. It is fully actualized. It's very, very powerful. However, we have free will. We have free will. And if we decide that we want to create a false person and imprison our souls, we can do that. And when I noticed that was what I noticed, I remember looking back when I was that 12-year-old boy on that bus, looking at that book title with that sort of inquisitive thought process of, how could anybody ever want that? How could you ever want to not worry about other people's thoughts? I mean, looking back as an adult, well, that makes a lot of sense, because anybody who's had any sort of abuse, and most people have, whether it's from a parental figure or just bully children or whatever, any sense of abuse as children, they learn very, very quickly, children, what people think of me is a matter of life and death. Because if they don't like me, they could hit me, they could hurt me, they could punish me, they could do something mean to me, they could be really bad. Right? So we learn at a very, very young age. We teach ourselves, I have to manage my self-image. I have to manage what people think of me. It's a matter of life and death. And we don't remember having that cognition. We don't remember actually cognizing it as that, usually. But we did make those decisions, and usually at a very, very young age. And it's possible that we started making those decisions at a pre-verbal age. Even before we understood language, we started making those decisions. And so this ego building started very, very young. And it was out of a sense of self-preservation that many of us did this. So it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to be upset at yourself for, but it is something that we want to recognize, that it's not serving us. It's not serving us whatsoever. So When I'm trying to manage other people's opinion of me, when I'm trying to manage my image, I'm doing it because I think somehow I'm going to avoid pain. Somehow I'm going to avoid abuse. I'm going to avoid problem. I'm going to avoid a bad experience. But at what expense? At what expense? What happens when we start doing that, when we start managing what people think, is that we believe that other people are more important than we are. And when we really start believing that other people are more important than we are, we've lost all power. We've lost all of our power. In our lives, nobody's more important than you. In your life, nobody's more important than you. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. Even when you start to do things like forgiveness, you're not forgiving for their sake. You're forgiving out of self-interest. And you have to get to the point where it's not only, well, it's okay to do that. It's okay to do something out of self-interest, to the point of, I need to do it out of self-interest. It's important to do things out of self-interest, because anything you truly do out of self-interest is never going to harm another soul, because what's good for you is ultimately good for the world, because infinite intelligence would have it no other way. So any idea that if I take care of myself, I'm doing it at the expense of another is an ego-based idea that is not based in truth. It's not based in fact. It is complete lie. It is a complete lie. It is erroneous thinking. So when you start thinking in terms of, I can't think of myself first because then I'm not a good person. I'm not a giving person. I'm not a caring person. I'm not doing anything that's good for the world. You're telling yourself the same lies that the rest of the world has been telling themselves, and that is, everybody else is more important than I am. Now, when you hear things like it is more blessed to give than receive, first of all, that's not absolutely true, but it also is not telling the whole truth, even in the areas where it is true. So when we say it is more blessed to give than receive, it's not that it's better to give than to receive. It is the only way to receive is to give. Giving is the way to receive. So it's not that you're giving because they're more important than you. It's that's the way to create the flow. So giving love to other people, giving forgiveness to other people, giving abundance to other people, bringing joy to other people, bringing healing to other people, all of those things are extremely powerful to do as long as you understand that you're doing it for yourself, not for them. I know that's weird to think of, but it's true. Otherwise, if you don't do it out of self-interest, then there's an ulterior motive. The ego won't stand for it. You can't do something selflessly from the ego's point of view because you want something in return. But if you're doing it from the soul's point of view, giving is its own reward. Kindness is its own reward. Forgiveness is its own reward. Right? So we're not being kind because we expect the universe to give us some kind of goodie. We're being kind because it feels good to us. It's good for us. It makes us feel better. It makes us do better. It puts us in line with our good. That's why we do good things, not because somehow, some way, at some later date or in some other realm, the universe is going to give us some sort of reward. That's a really wrong idea that's going to cause you problem after problem after problem again. This idea that I'm going to do something for somebody else so that I can get brownie points that somehow I can cash in later. No, you do it because it feels good now. You do it because it feels good now. You do everything in your life out of self-interest. When you do that, you are of service to the entire planet. But when you try to help other people at your expense, or when you think they're more important than you, then all you're doing is creating more illusion. You are creating more illusion, and you are fueling the tank of illusion for everybody else. You're not doing anybody any service at all whatsoever. It may seem like you are, right? But you aren't. A sure telltale sign if you are not doing things out of self-interest is this idea of being a martyr. Nobody ever appreciates me. Look at all that I do for you, and you don't even appreciate me. I can't believe that all I do, nobody even helps me. Those kinds of thoughts, that's telling you that you're not doing things out of self-interest. You're doing things because you're expecting something in return. Well, you can't, just like you can't manage other people's point of view about you, you can't manage other people's reactions to you. You can't manage other people's behavior. You can't manage anything to do with other people. So why bother even trying? Right? All that's going to do is frustrate you and get you more confused. If you focus instead all of your power, all of your energy, all of your focus on yourself and what you want and how you want to get there, it's not going to make you a selfish person. It's going to make you a self-full person. A capital S self-full person. Remember when in the Old Testament, when Moses was given this vision of God. There was the burning bush, which who knows what that was. It was probably some sort of a constellation of a star that appeared behind a bush, but whatever. God appears to Moses in this story, and Moses says, "What's your name?" And God says, "My name is I am. I am that I am." So God taught Moses in that moment, it's all about I am, not about you are, not about she is, not about they are, not about he is, not even about we are. It's about I am. It's all about me. Because God created you in your life. And then you have your brothers and sisters in the world. Yes, you do. You are part of a family, and we're not negating that here. But how you interact with those people needs to be you first. You first. Never at their expense, because you first can't be at their expense, because that's not how God created things. God did not create things so that when you get your needs met, that other people suffer or it's at the expense of others. That's an ego trick. That's not how it works. When you are fully in your own power and you are fully interested in your joy, your happiness, your success, your freedom, your health, you are a joy to be around. You are an expression of light that spreads love and joy to everybody else, and it subliminally teaches them how to do that for themselves. So in Thelema, Aleister Crowley talked about the true will. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will is how he described it. Well, I'm not pushing any religion and not Thelema or anything, but it's an interesting and very, very powerful thing to think about. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Your will. Now, that doesn't mean do whatever you want, do whatever you feel like necessarily. It means do your will. Well, what is your will? What is your will? Your will must be what you desire with your heart. If you truly desire something with your heart, that desire came as part of you when you were created. As an extension of light, as an extension of divinity, you were extended, you were created as an act of love to be a very unique individual in this world. Nobody's like you. And complete with that and replete with that comes righteous desires of your heart that were given to you at your creation in order for you to fulfill them. That is your mission here. That is your true will here. And nothing is going to make you happy until you are functioning on the level of how you were created, and you are living your will. You are exerting your true will. And so, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Meaning, if you are functioning as functioning as a spirit, as a soul who is fulfilling their will, then you are fulfilling the law, the entire law. Now it says love is the law, love under will. And that means that you are an extension of love. That means you doing your will is the only loving thing you can do, and only good can come from it. So if you're doing what you think is your will and something good doesn't come from it, then you weren't doing your will. You were probably doing something so that somebody would like you. You were probably doing something so that somebody could have a specific opinion of you. You were probably doing something so that you didn't get canceled, or so that or something, somehow on some level you were doing something that wasn't your will, but it was what you thought might get you in better with other people. And that's always a recipe for failure. So doing your true will, doing that which is in your best interests, never, ever causes pain to other people. Now, they can say it causes them pain because they want you to act in a certain way, and that's not your problem, right? Especially if people are used to you doing things because they can manipulate you, right? Even if they don't know that's what they're doing. A lot of times we manipulate each other very subliminally, right? So say you've been in this relationship with somebody for so long where you're putting them first, and then all of a sudden you get enlightened and you say, whoa, it's got to be me first, me first, me first. You start doing me first with them, they won't like it, right? So it may look on the surface, especially at first, that this is not a smart idea. You better go back to your old ways. But that's not the case. It's because you can't worry about their reaction necessarily. You can't manage their reaction necessarily. Now, if you start putting yourself first and that reaction becomes something that's untenable, then you may have to end a relationship, at least temporarily. That's sometimes the case. When you start to come into your own power and you start to actually make things work for yourself and you turn your life around, look at Tina Turner. Look at what happened. All of a sudden, Tina Turner put herself first. She used that Buddhist chanting as her method to do that. She put herself first, and he did not like it. Ike did not care for that, right? But she showed us that if she kept putting herself first, that she would be able to heal from that abusive relationship. And not only heal from that abusive relationship, but put a boundary between her and that abuse, and then start a trend of success. And so that she became more successful than she ever had been before. But why did that happen? Because she put herself first. So that was just a wonderful example of that. But you can find example again and again and again and again and again when people start to realize that when you put yourself first, you are not becoming a liability. You are becoming the asset that you were created to be. So it can be a big step for a lot of people to start to recognize, wow, if I put myself first, and if I mind my own business, and if I put all the focus on me and my true desires, not necessarily my lusts, that's not good. But if I truly put my true desires first, and my spiritual awakening first, and my needs first, I can start to actually make a difference in the world. I can become a force of healing in the world, right? Why would I want to do that? Because it feels good. It feels good to be a force of healing, right? Some people look at me and they say, wow, I can't believe that you do all this and you don't charge any money, and how can you put so many other people first? I say, I don't put people first. This is what I want to do. This feels right to me. This feels good. This is my life's work. I love putting this stuff out there. I don't do it necessarily because I get nice comments, although those are nice when they come, but the negative comments are fine too. But ultimately, I'm doing this because it feels good. It feels right. It's my life's work. It makes me happy. It makes me joyous. It makes me happy and free. That's why I'm doing it. I'm not doing it because other people are benefiting necessarily. Yes, I want other people to benefit, but because that makes me happy. Right? I'm not putting other people's happiness over my own. That would make everything sick. That would twist it all. That would make this a very negative thing for everybody, ultimately. If I put everybody else's needs first and I just became a martyr and I just, I'm going to suffer for everybody else. No, that would turn it into something awful. No, I put myself first. Me, 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 me. Now, me, in that sense, meaning the capital M, myself with a capital S, not my whims, not my lusts, not my hungers, right? Those are the kinds of things that are usually born out of, I hope somebody likes me. I hope that I get a good response from somebody. I hope that I don't get a negative response from somebody. Those are usually the me kind of things which cause problems, right? So let's put just a couple real quick examples before we close. So for instance, if you're going around saying, I want this and I want that and I want this and I want that, sort of giving your shopping list to God, that's me. That's sort of old-fashioned selfishness. Usually the reason why you want those things is not because you desire them. You want them because somehow it's going to make you look better in other people's eyes, or the people's eyes that you want to impress. You may not believe that. You may not even realize that because it's been so sublimated for so long in your consciousness. But those kinds of hungers usually are born out of you trying to have a particular image. But if you were to say what I want, what I love, what makes my heart sing, what my soul longs for me to do here, that kind of me with a capital M, all that's going to do is bring joy to the world, bring healing to the world. It's going to make you happy, but it's going to make other people happy too. And it's going to teach other people by example how they can be happy. Because what you're doing then is you're taking the focus off of everybody else's opinion of you and you're putting it on your soul and why you came here. And some people aren't going to like it and some people are, and that's none of your business. Really, on a very, very practical, real level, none of your business, whether they like you or whether they don't like you, whether it serves them or whether it doesn't serve them. It doesn't really matter because your true will cannot go up against another person's true will. So if you are truly living your life's purpose, if you are truly living the will with a capital W of yourself with a capital S, then you can't help but not only be happy, but also bring happiness and joy to everybody else. But it's not because you're bringing joy and happiness to everybody else that you're doing it. It's because it's the right thing to do. It's because it makes you feel good. And real quickly too, you have to learn to discern between something that makes you feel good and temporarily satisfies a hunger or temporarily sublimates a desire or lust. So something that truly makes you feel good is something that opens your heart and it lasts. Something that just temporarily satisfies a lust, you know that that's not going to last because you're immediately looking for the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. But when you're living your true purpose, your true will, you're not necessarily looking for the next thing because the thing is there. The thing is there. It's self-perpetuating. There's nothing that could make you feel better. You feel better than you've ever felt before, and then that better keeps expanding because you're doing your true will. But you're not looking for the next thing necessarily. You're not looking for the next lust. You're not looking for the next fix, right? So a difference between fulfilling a lust or hunger, getting a fix, versus actually working your will, actually doing what you came here to do. And that's one of the reasons why we spend so much time on making those lists. What would a happy day look like for you? If you were to write that out and say, well, what would my happy day look like? What would I be doing? What would I have? What would I be involved with? Right? Even if it's involving another, like your partner, something, my happy day would be me and my partner, blah, 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 blah. Of course you want a partner. Of course you want a beloved in your life. But that's because it's your true will, not because you're putting all the focus on them, not because you're putting them first, not because they're so much more important than you. You're doing it because it makes you feel good. And if you're feeling truly good, if your soul is shining, Everybody's going to feel good because of you. And if they don't, that's not your problem. It's not your doing. And it's not your responsibility. It's not your responsibility to make sure everybody likes you. It's not your responsibility to make sure everybody's happy. It's not your responsibility to make sure that everybody's problems are solved. What your responsibility is to do what you came here to do. And that's the thing that brings you joy. And there can be many, many facets to that. And the only way to find that is to learn how to spend quality time with yourself and question your motives. And start looking at you first. What other people think of you really is none of your business. So let's stop trying to manage our image so much and start to focus on what brings us joy. What brings you joy? What makes you feel good? What brings you aliveness? That's not going to hurt anybody else. It's going to be only a beacon of joy, hope, and wonder for others. And if it's not, none of your business. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I really appreciate you being here. I adore you, and I can't wait to work with you again. And until next time, blessed be.